Okay, good. My update finished before stream started, so we are on time. Huzzah. Frame. Well, that way. You can see my cutting board. Cool. 5 o'clock on the dot. Welcome to It's Good Enough to Eat. I'm your host, Warren, he, him. And noise in the background will be the cats, of course, or my husband, Mark, also he, him. So if you had any questions about what's going on back there, he hasn't started a video game, but the cat knocked something over, so who knows? Who knows what yelling has happened or will happen. Hi. Anyway, so we're doing a double today because I figured cookies wouldn't take that long. So might as well have something else going on at the same time. And I'm wondering, I was gonna do the ice cream first, but now I'm thinking I should maybe do the cookies first, because then when I finish making ice cream base, the cookies will be done, but then I also have to be getting cookies in and out of the oven when I'm worrying about doing stuff for the cookies too. Whatever, no, I'm just gonna go back to, you know what, yes, cookies first, because then y'all can see something by the end of the show, because those only take 12 minutes-ish to bake. So, let's start with cookies. Everyone needs a good chocolate chip cookie recipe, right? Right, Emil? Good chocolate chip cookies? And these are the best ones that I make, I think. And of course, knowing me, they're never quite the same, but they're pretty close. And it's a really good base to deviate from. Oh, Emil wants the chocolate chip cookies, so we'll go with it. I'm going to break this up real quick. So I have made sure that I did my mise en place and everything is measured and out and ready to go, especially since I'm making two different things. I didn't want to be scrambling to remember something or forget one piece or mix up the two different recipes. That'd be the worst, right? Oh, thank you for tuning in during your work day. I'm still on PLPs over here, so I am done for the weekend. Whatever that means. It just means I can play video games during the day tomorrow instead of waiting until after work. Play board games when Mark finally wakes up. He's up until 3 and then wakes up whenever. His weekend starts earlier or later than mine. Yeah, I'll probably do some stuff this weekend just because it's bouncing back and forth in my head. And of course, part of my work right now is just brainstorming projects. Not half my work, 10th of my work. So, I mean, I'm always thinking about some stuff. Okay, so my dry. I have got my flour in a bowl. I've got baking soda and salt that I really didn't need such a big side container for, but that's what I have. And I'm just going to whisk that up quickly to get lumps out of my flour. And then we will go, what did I do? Still have butter waiting for me where it was softening. Butter. Didn't quite get it out early enough, so I had to give it a little microwave help. There's a butter setting on my microwave, but if you don't have that, do it in like 10-second intervals because you don't want to melt it. It'll mess with the consistency. You just want it soft. So if you have butter setting, that's great. Or I just saw someone from, I have to wash my hands, saw someone from Bake Off that did she microwaved a bowl of water and then dumped that out and put the hot bowl over a plate that had the butter on it and let it just sit, and that softened it. nice and ready for her mixing. So yeah, it's soft enough when it just goes right up into your whisk. So I'm just gonna get that loosened right now. Shouldn't take that much, but I am looking for, like I've told you before, that mayonnaise kind of texture. I just want to get it nice and smooth, holding peaks. I like my peaks if I was whipping egg whites, but it's just fat. Cool. You could also do this in a mixer, but I try not to do mixy things because I don't want to, well, one, I haven't bought nicer headphones for that yet. So, that's what we do right now. So then that thing that I was mixing up earlier, this is just a mix of white sugar, brown sugar, and molasses. And don't ask me why they use both. If you're wondering what molasses is what makes white sugar into brown. So white sugar, they have just removed the molasses. But it's got, I don't know if you've ever had it before. It's kind of a weird, smoky, I don't know, it's molasses flavor. If you've had gingerbread, a lot of the flavor of gingerbread, besides the ginger, comes from molasses. It gives it the nice deep brown color as well. So, I don't know. If you didn't have any molasses, just use all brown sugar. Um, couldn't specify why it's done this way, but this is the best recipe I have found, so I just roll with it. I did measure this out too early, so of course my molasses is sticking a little bit. Just get the spatula, because I'm going to need a spatula later anyway, so it's not like I'm getting something extra dirty. That's true. There you go. So I am just going to cream together these butter and sugar. That, there you go, was for Fred, who gave me a molasses pun. So I'm just trying to get this nice and evenly blended together using a big old whisk and your muscles instead of a machine, because we need to get our workout, right? So that we can so we can justify eating our cookies, right? I'm going to turn the oven on since I am doing this first, which I didn't plan to initially. Get that going, because these do come together pretty quickly. Quicker when you are not stopping to read puns halfway through. It's got a little bit of extra molasses, but that'll come together in time. Oh, last wet ingredient, of course, my eggs. I find that one of the most difficult things about doing recipes by weight is measuring out your eggs, because they're not convenient and stick-sized like butter is. So when I was getting this recipe together, I made sure to adjust all the measurements so that it would be 2 even sticks of butter, and then that was one thing I didn't have to measure, since I had to measure everything else. Cool. Here's my lovely goo here, and I will be done. I think I'm done with this. Well, let's just set it aside, not in the sink, because you know that half the time when I think I'm done with something, I'm not really. So, dry ingredients, and done with that bowl. And I'm just going to mix those in gently with my spatula that I just used. Don't want the whisk in this because that would fling my flour everywhere. And if I was doing this in the mixer, I would put it on low speed at this point. But we're not in a hurry. We didn't do our exercise today, so let's just use every excuse, right? Cool. And as quickly as that, that is my cookie dough, right? And then, of course, you can add your favorite chocolate to it. Yeah, like the oven. And so this is just a mix of chocolate chips, cinnamon bits, and chocolate chunks. And you have the different sizes and textures of chocolate in here just because the chocolate chunks will stay a little bit crunchy. They're not going to melt all the way through, or the chips will get meltier, and the cinnamon chips are um, mostly going to melt into everything to give it more of just a kind of pleasant cinnamony flavor. I just chopped up some bulk chocolate. If you have just a bar of chocolate, just smack it with a rolling pin a couple of times, and then when you unwrap it, it's nice and sharded and chunky for you. If you didn't chop it quite small enough, just give your pieces a little bit of a snap there. Get that off to the side. Get my sieve ready, because I'm going to need that later. And just mix this. And this is just like any sort of other baked recipe, breads, cakes, cupcakes, brownies. Once you get the flour in there, you don't want to mix it too much. You want to mix it just the right amount. So for the cookies and cakes, that's not very much because you don't want to develop gluten, make your cookies or cakes tough. If you were making bread, that's where you would want to mix it a lot. That's why you see people kneading bread dough, is to develop that gluten. Gluten being proteins in the flour that give structure to your baked product. So, I've got my baking trays with my silpats on them. If you don't have silpats, of course, use just baking paper, parchment paper, whatever you have. And then the original recipe, of course, is crazy and says this is going to make like 8 cookies because they are huge cookies. And if I were just eating cookies and serving my nephew, he would be happy with gigantic cookies because then he could tell his mom he only had one, right? That's our trick. But since I want to make sandwiches out of these, I'm going to do slightly more manageable sizes. I do want to be somewhat similar in size. So I'm going to try and click to find my ice cream scoop. And this is soft enough dough that I'm not going to break that little scooper dealy. If it was a stiffer dough, which I have done before, I would not use this because I have broken these things before. And that's no good. I turned my fan on because I made some moussaka yesterday, and some oil dripped into the oven, and it's smoking a little bit. It's not burning, nothing is dying in there, but it is smoking a little bit, so... Oh, goodness. So I'm just going to scoop this, make nice, flat cookie balls, and these will spread out, so I do not need to flatten them or anything. But since they do spread, I do want to give them some room on the tray to grow. So I'm only going to put 5 on here at a time. There's that. And then once the oven heats up and stops smoking, we'll be good to go. And of course, I will have 2 trays going at a time. So instead of making 8 cookies, we're probably going to make 16 or 20. So I'm just going to set that off to the side. Oh, I hope I don't. Oh, jeez. Oh, yeah. No, I'm making, yeah, just cookies and then just ice cream. And of course, the ice cream will not be done in the course of this because it does need time to freeze and spin. And so I will have Mark go get the ice cream maker once this is done. Of course, you can even go more old school and do the shaky ice cream method, which just involves putting a bunch of ice and salt in a bag and then putting a smaller bag with your ice cream mix in there and shaking it. Which, as much as I want to get some exercise while I'm making this, not that I'm not that concerned about it. So I will let the ice cream maker do its thing when we get to that point. But now I'm just writing on this. And of course now I'm wishing that I had known more oil spilled and I would have wiped it up out of the oven. Oh well. One sec. Gonna mute for a sec because I bet I'm gonna have to get more fans going. Right? And of course, because I was so prepared with everything else, all my ingredients, all my 2 different recipes, all my utensils were all ready. Of course, there's the thing that I didn't prepare for. So let that be the lesson. Don't prepare everything, and then your oven will be clean, right? That's how that works, I think. Well, we're fine. We haven't set off the smoke alarm, and I don't mind opening the window because it's warm in here. Well, we didn't set a timer, so let us just pay attention to the time. I'm gonna want to switch those 2 pans in the oven once they get halfway. Thank you, Larry. Yes, we are fingers crossed right now. But the fans are on, the windows are open. Yeah, fingers crossed. And I'll just leave the mouse hovering over that mute button just in case, because no one wants to hear that. So, for the ice cream, set aside my sieve for now. I've got. We had a bunch more bananas, but I want to try to make. Right? My mom actually had one of those old style where you had to turn the crank. For what seemed, I don't know why it took so long, because you see people like make it online and do the shaking in the 2 bags, and it seems like it comes together in 15 minutes. Where I feel like as a kid, probably because I was a kid and everything seemed like it took forever, especially when you wanted ice cream. It just took hours of cranking. Hours. Probably because also we were outside and it was hot. That probably didn't help. So, since we have more brown bananas, and I didn't want to just make bunches of more bread, even though if Tay were here, I'm sure he would say, give me more bread. He loves the bread. So instead, I'm going to make banana ice cream because banana chocolate chip ice cream. Pretty good, right? Chocolate chip cookies and banana ice cream. I think it's gonna be pretty good. And we're gonna go kind of a bananas Foster direction. It's gonna be good. So I just got some bananas in this pan, and then my sugar, which again is brown sugar. Of course, you could use your white sugar and molasses. Um, but I'm just going to, I want to make a paste out of this. So I'm going to put on the stove on kind of medium heat and just kind of mash it up and let it cook down. Because I also don't want to add too much liquid to my ice cream, or else it's not going to set as nicely for me. Ooh, maybe we should make some rosemary bread. Or just make sourdough. I was going to make some buns for hamburgers, and I haven't gotten around to that. Today was a leftovers day. Got a bunch of wings. I should make some wings. Also burgers, because I think I have some burger meat that's going to go bad pretty soon. So many things. I don't know. But so this is just gonna, I'm gonna mash this down. Turn that a little bit down so you're not just hearing fan, right? And let this caramelize and cook out for me. I want some of that liquid in the banana to cook out. Because our fruits are just full of water. And you gotta account for that in whatever you're baking. Like if you watch baking shows, you'll see a lot of people trying to make fruity cakes, and they want to get lovely pear and apple flavoring in their cakes, but then they don't properly account for the moisture, and they still add too much other things that are wet. Sugar, which is one of those things that is wet for some reason. Too much oil in the cake, too many eggs, whatever. You just got to make sure you know that extra liquid is there and account for it. So that is just going to slowly cook away for me. We'll keep an eye on it. We've got 3 minutes. Someone ping me in 3 minutes so I remember to flip those cookies. And then we will finish separating our eggs. So I've just got egg yolks, because that again, like whatever I made, like the curd, this is what is going to thicken our ice cream. Of course, there's a million styles of ice cream out there where you don't put any eggs in it. I believe that egg, is it New York style or Philadelphia style, or one of the styles has eggs. Still, it doesn't actually say anything else on there. It's a Guardians of the Galaxy tank. Um, so, I don't like messing around with my separating of my eggs, so I've just got a bowl, another bowl, and my final bowl. I never want to crack this directly into my final product, because I don't want a bunch of egg white in there, and I want to have a buffer zone before I transfer it in. It's going to matter less with this, because I want the egg yolks in there. But for the egg whites, if I was going to make meringues or anything that needed whipping up, I don't want any of the yolk in there, and that's where I want to be careful. What's wrong with this yolk method? Do you crack it and do you use the squeezy bottle? Or do you tip it from one half eggshell to the other, Emil? See, I used to use the shell, but it's too much. It's too. I mean, you get it on your fingers anyway. You still have to wash your hands, so you might as well just go all for it. Just pull the yolk out. It's real easy. Although I was talking to my mom, and if you are going to do the shell method, then I wouldn't have my eggs on the counter coming to room temperature, because she said it helps you not break the yolk if the egg is cold. So I guess she heard that on Split a Table or something. She listens to cooking shows on NPR all the time. So if you're going to do the shell method, do eggs straight out of the fridge so they're still cold, because that'll help you out that way. But since I have these all out and waiting for me, I do it this way. And yeah, I don't got time to mess around with the shell. If I was doing the shell, I'd also want to wash the egg so I don't get whatever's on the outside of the egg in the inside before I'm eating it. I don't got time to wash the egg anyway, either. So we'll just do it that way. I'm gonna check my bananas, make sure those are not burning on me. smells nice and it smells like cooking sugar. That's what caramel is. So if you like caramel, then you just like cooked sugar and bananas. And that's just getting our deeper, nuttier, smokier, however you like to describe it, flavor in our banana. So we have a little bit of peel in here. So pull that red out. These egg yolks are just gonna go back in the fridge, and I can use them to make meringues or frosting or something else that uses egg whites sometime in the future. Ooh, thank you. Flip these around. I know I switched shelves, but I didn't think I wanted them on that top shelf. I forgot to move the shelf. And it looks like we are not billowing smoke anymore. So thumbs up. We didn't set off the smoke alarm. We go turn off that other air filter that I turned on. I pulled the air filter out of my workout room because we have cat pants in there too, and so that has been making sure that the hallway smoke detectors did not go off. So those will do another 6 minutes, and then they will be ready. It's still warm. Goodness. Okay. So now that I have these egg yolks, I'm just going to break them up. I've also got a little bit of salt in there. Just gonna whisk those up a little bit. And I'm going to start. I'm going to put these on the back burner. Or the side burner. Actually makes more sense. Turn this up a bit. And I'm going to get my pre-measured cream and milk in this other pot. And of course the recipes specify non-reactive pots, because you don't want anything changing the flavor of your ingredients other than what you want going in there. So I've got my stainless steel pots here. Of course, those are the only pots I really have, so that's what I'm going to use anyway. But it also specifies that for the egg part, and that's why I love my little Pyrex bowl. It has a lid. It fits my strainer. Can go right in the fridge, and then this is what I'm going to put the custard in for the ice cream before it freezes. The custard is just the custard base. That's what they're calling it for this ice cream. If you continued cooking it and thickened it all the way, it would just be a custard, which is great to put inside like an eclair or a cream puff, a donut. Other lovely things custard is good for. But I'm just going to freeze this one so I can make ice cream sandwiches out of it. So this just needs to come up to a bubble. I don't want it boiling because I'm going to start playing with the milk proteins and making skins and other sorts of things that I don't want happening with that. But I do want it to come up so I can start adding it to my egg yolks. But again, I'm going to do that really slowly because I don't want to cook the egg yolks quickly. I don't want to curdle them, so I'm not making scrambled eggs. I want to bring them up to temperature gradually so they just act as a binding agent and thicken my custard into a lovely, soft, silky, velvety, whatever adjectives those cooking show folks like to use to describe their custards. This is going up pretty quick. Give that another little stir. That'll be okay. I went to a Ginger Elizabeth ice cream class a couple of years back, and I wouldn't recommend her method unless you've done it a million times before and were really good at doing it yourself. She just dumped it all in, and of course it came out perfectly. I can't do that. I would have scrambled eggs every time. So I'm going to do it slowly and carefully to avoid that. So this is up to temperature already, which is great. It's bubbling away. No, it's not quite there. It just started. But I'm going to be working with two hands because I want to not stop moving my egg yolks around once I put hot liquid into them. I should turn you a little bit this way so you can see what's going on. I've been considering getting a hot plate so I can do the work here right in front of everything that's going on. You can see it directly, but I'm going to have to go get a hot plate. I can steal one from my mom. She's got a few. But too much trouble. Making sure my bananas are working. I actually made some banana cheesecakes yesterday, and I did not use a mixer, and I did not let my cream cheese come up to temperature enough, so my cream cheese was a little bit too chunky in the final product. So not as smooth and lovely as I would have liked to. Not as smooth as I would have liked it. So I think it's fine. You can just taste the little bits of cream cheese through at it. Which if you don't like cream cheese, but do you like cheesecake, isn't the happiest thing. Okay, so now that our milk is bubbling, I'm going to just take a ladleful at a time and turn it down. Take a ladleful at a time and put it into my eggs and whisk, whisk, whisk. Just want a slow, steady stream in there. Just gently bring the eggs up to temperature. Just a little more time until you've got like a third to a half of the milk into there. And of course, the trickiest part is bringing the ladle of milk over to the eggs without spilling a bunch. Just don't have it terribly full. There we go. So now those eggs are nice and happy and warm. Put that away. Then I'm going to put this whole thing back in there. I've turned the heat on this down almost all the way so I don't shock them again. And there we go. Leave that on low while I rinse this out. Just in case that is not eggs. Hot water to clean. Cold water. Bring that down. And I want to dry that out. So I don't want, again, if I cook all the liquid out of my bananas, then I just let extra water get in from washing the bowl. Kind of defeats the purpose, right? So, okay. Now I can bring this back up a little bit, just to medium, and I just want to stir it until it gets thick. And you can see it changing. It'll happen pretty quickly for you, just a couple minutes, but you don't want to leave it. I do want to turn it down and get those cookies out of the oven. If only I had a place to put them. I can move a bunch of stuff off of this layer. Overneath that. Here. those are my done cookies. Very hot. Let those cool for a minute as we go back to our ice cream. And even on that low heat, it has continued to thicken for me. Still looks nice and lovely. And now that is thickened, smell our cooked cream and get out a clean spatula and draw a line down the back. That's how we know it is nice and properly thickened. So, we'll take that off the heat. Well, it's turned off. But I do need to now, because that's just cream and eggs, not flavored with anything. But I have my bananas over here. I'm just going to dump those right in. They've been over here caramelizing and steaming off all that excess liquid. And of course, that is where all my sugar in here was too. So without that, I would have some bland ice cream. I want to whisk that in as well. There is my banana custard that is almost ready for chilling. Oh, hi, Zach. Oh, is there a cat that ran by? Hooten dexterous. Oh. So, I want to let that steep in the bananas for a minute. Think of it like tea, and the bananas are my tea leaves. They're imparting flavor. Plus that sugar and the cooked down and the caramelization and everything. I'm going to let that sit there for a minute while I put another round of cookies in the oven. That's just waiting for me. Let's get a rack ready to go. I need to do some reorganizing because I am out of space in here. Or I just need to appropriate like half the rest of the house to be kitchen. That'll be nice. Rack. Put my cookies off. And of course, I'm sure Mark is over there champing at the bit, ready to have one of these fresh out of the oven. But he is going to have to wait for these. Where's our little cookies now? Aha, okay. Second round of cookies. Right back onto these racks. We're going to make close to 2 dozen, I think. Do one handful after that. That's annoying. If only I had a gigantic oven that could fit a third tray. I'll probably get a third tray in there. Third tray. Quite cool enough to just throw that. There we go. And then I've got some space to work again. So, here's my clean and dried Here's my banana goo, banana custard that has been sitting there. And now I want to get out any egg chunks that I might have messed up and gotten in there, as well as the banana, because the banana is still kind of fibrous. Um, so maybe you don't want to eat the little banana fibers in your ice cream. So that's another good reason to throw it through the sieve. I'm just going to dump that right down in. Let that drain through. And I'll help it along. But all the cooking of that is done. There we go. It's getting much nicer in here. Okay. So we're just gonna move that around, let it drain through, keeping all of our lovely custardy cream and sugar and banana flavor, and getting rid of banana chunks. And of course you can add things to this ice cream as well. I'm going to add some vanilla and some rum at the end. If you want the rum flavor, but you don't want the rum in the ice cream, then of course you can put it in when your cream is cooking, and that will help most of the alcohol get out of it. Whatever's left is not going to be enough to impact anyone. But I'm going to put it in at the end because I don't mind having that extra little kick. We'll also throw some vanilla in at the end, and I would always do the vanilla at the end anyway because that is also based in an alcohol solution, and the more you cook the vanilla um, before the final product, the less intense the flavor is going to be. So in this ice cream case, I would put the vanilla in at the end, regardless of what I was doing. So we've got all of our lovely custard through the sieve. All that's left is our extra banana pieces that we don't want in the final product. And I'm seeing no eggy bits, so I'm satisfied with that. Just wipe the bottom off because there's a bunch of extra ice cream there. It's going too crazy getting every last bit because this is probably going to be too big to fit in the ice cream maker anyway. So maybe I will let this thicken and use it as a filling for something. I don't know. Figured out. So there is my lovely ice cream, and of course you can taste it now because it actually tastes like what it's going to be. Much better than when I tasted it before, because there's actually flavor in it besides just the cream, and that is pretty nice. I'm going to give it a little head start with my ice bath that I prepared ahead of time. Those being so good. There's just chunks of ice in here. And then here's my rum that I'm going to add to make it bananas fostery. Smells nice. And my little tot of vanilla. And I'll whisk that in. And that ice is just going to give it a head start, cooling down, making sure we don't cook it anymore. And it's always nice not to put something super warm right in the fridge. Don't have to deal with that time window of letting things grow in it that you don't want growing in it. So like if you're refrigerating soup, it's also a good method. Cool it down before you put it directly in the fridge. You don't warm up your fridge, you don't get other things messed up, and you make that window of unhealthy, of a bad food safety window between 140 and 40 degrees as small as possible. No, I didn't pour myself an extra shot this time, sorry. Oh yeah, if you did a vanilla bean instead, then it would be acting like the banana was, where I referred to it as my tea leaves, my banana tea. If I was using a vanilla pod, uh, I would scrape out the seeds and put the seeds and the pod itself in the cream while it was heating, so it would steep like vanilla tea. Um, and then that same thing would happen when I strained it. The pod parts would come out because those have flavor also, but they're again fibrous. You don't want to eat them, and all the seeds are small enough to pass through the mesh, so those would stay in. And that's really the difference between vanilla ice cream and vanilla bean ice cream. It's just the vanilla bean ice cream had the fresh vanilla pod, and it has the little bits. That's why you see the little black bits. Those are your vanilla seeds. I don't know if they're actually seeds, um, but those are your vanilla bits. Cool. So officially done with all the things. You can say to ice. Throw it into the wine bucket and have a glass of champagne, right? It's the weekend now. But I'm going to put my lid on that. I'm going to wipe off the bottom so I don't create a wet spot in the fridge. And that'll cool down for a couple hours before Mark turns it. And what time did I put those other cookies in here? I'm sure I was supposed to rotate these by now, right? Didn't ask anyone for help this time. Yeah, they're doing fine. Whew! And there we have it. 2 recipes from one, right? That went a little longer than normal, but that's fine. And of course our cookie has cooled down a little bit. It's nice and lovely and cookie-y. Right? Um, Probably a little in there too long because I lost track, despite all your best efforts to help me. But yeah. Thumbs up. Good. Good enough for you, at least. So thanks everyone for tuning in. I hope you learned something. I hope you try to make some cookies. I will post the recipe. And I hope you enjoy. As always, it's been good enough to eat. Have a good weekend, everyone. Oh, right. Thank you, Emil. You're so much better at this than I am. I've been trying to be really good about this and take my preparation shots, make sure people know a couple hours before this happens that it's going to be happening so I have a chance to get ready. It seems weird to promote your channel while you're on your channel, but yeah, it's a different channel. It's the secondary place. Here we go. So last week's recipe I will upload right now to the YouTube and post the recipe with it. And this one will go up next week. And hopefully I will figure out something to make before the day of next time. Thank you, Emil. You always make me better. Okay, signing off for real this time. Thanks, everyone. Have a good weekend.